change you want to see in the world. We've all heard this saying or something similar, and this episode's guests truly live this every day. JD and Rose live outside of Portland, Oregon, and run the Be the Change community, which is a virtual community of people from around the world interested and invested in making the world a better place. Like all of our guests, they're an inspiration and an example of how local action can have a global impact. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wi-Fi and Water. Rose and JD, welcome to Wi-Fi and Water. How are you guys doing?
Hi, thank you for having us.
Doing well, thank you.
We're going to just jump right in. Tell me about your project. Why did it start? How did it start? Where did it start? Who started it? Go.
Be the Change community initially started as Be the Change You Wish to See. It was just a girls group on Facebook. And I started it initially to create a network of women that were looking to better themselves, empower themselves. I started the group and it's like, well, what now? You know, what do we do with this group? So I had a girlfriend at the time sit down with me and we kind of bounced some ideas off of each other, and she went home and I went off on a whole nother tangent. And when we talked the next time, I was like, girl, this is what we're doing. And we decided that we were going to hit 7 different areas of personal development. 7 areas include mental, physical, emotional, social, spiritual, self, family, and goal development, plus women empowerment, health and wellness, and community service. So in doing this, I started giving the girls daily challenges where I'm kind of pushing them outside of their comfort zones. There's something that's pretty frequent every single week. It doesn't change. Kind of gives them a challenge that they can know and expect and look forward to, as well as a daily challenge that kind of is a little bit more invasive in some senses. And we don't see a lot of activity in a lot of those, but the girls tell me behind the scenes that they're doing these things and it's working. It's just breaking those girls outside of that shell and creating a safe space where they feel like they can finally talk to one another and socialize with one another and feel comfortable going into details about their life that maybe they wouldn't talk to about with any other person. So we have created that community. It's finally starting to work. We're seeing an uptick in numbers. We have people from all over the world joining. We have Sydney, Australia. We've got Canada. We've got Nigeria, a bunch of different ones that have just popped up recently. And it's just been so exciting to see that no matter where you are in the world, there's women that are experiencing the same exact things. Doesn't matter the lifestyle, the money, the religion, the race, like.
And she still does this group too. Like she still does this women empowerment group as well. Be the Change just then kind of evolved once she really started pushing towards community outreaches of like picking up trash and.
Yeah, so it was June of 2019. We started in April of 2019, and June we did our first community cleanup, and everybody from his work wanted to join. We had random people on the streets of Portland stopping and asking if they could join and help us. And homeless women stopped and grabbed a bag to help us. And it was just such a beautiful experience. We realized that it's far bigger than just a girls group on Facebook. And so from Be the Change You Wish to See, we became Be the Change community. And that's where we started our outreach. And we've always just been a see a need, fill a need organization. So as things come to our attention, we take care of it, you know, and
or something we find passionate about, like tree plantings or something. We're like, you know what, that's something that we can leave for the next generation as well. And so it's definitely a see a need, fill a need, and what we feel that we need for our soul in order to, you know, feel accomplished and feel better about what we're doing. For the community and for the world, for the earth, you know.
Yeah, we want to be able to supply anyone everywhere with opportunities that they can tangibly change the world with their own 2 hands.
Yeah.
Like things that are perceivable. I can go out and pick up 1 piece of trash. I can go out and pick up 5 minutes of my day. You know, I can pick up 1 bag, just 1 bag, like our friends.
Yeah.
I like that you refer to them as friends, because that's, you know, you guys being in Portland and I'm in Massachusetts. I'm in the North Shores, which means I'm north of Boston, and they're on the South Shore, so they're south of Boston. And the fact that you say that they're your friends, I mean, that is just really the beauty of the digital age in which we live.
Yeah.
met you guys via them. I was like, oh, okay, what's Be the Change? Let me check them out. And now we're here talking. And everything you're saying really resonates because today especially is a huge day in US history, being that it's the day when Kamala Harris, the first woman, especially woman of color, is now vice president. So it is a huge day for women empowerment.
Absolutely.
And I have so many friends who I've spoken with today who said something along the lines of, I was watching it and I just broke down. And I don't necessarily know exactly why or when, but I was just overwhelmed with seeing me there because the glass ceiling in some senses broke. Obviously, one day we'll see a female president.
Absolutely.
But today was a huge day. And
Yeah.
so what's been the chatter on Be the Change on that side? What's it, Be the Change you wish to see?
We have been very quiet actually today so far. All the girls in there have been super quiet. There hasn't been a whole lot of chatter. We're really focusing on a lot of ways that are very deep in our challenges. And I think that it's very taxing in some of the things that I'm giving them to do.
It's tough, revealing insecurities to a lot of random women around the world.
I mean, I'm trying to put these women in positions where they are extremely uncomfortable. I want them to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. What's an example? Because now I want to know.
So today's challenge, we'll go into that. As we continue to grow in the development of our goals and empowerment, it is important to recognize even the smallest of wins. It is proven that when one's perspective is trained or retrained to look at the positive, other positives will start to happen in one's life. This can be due to a lot of different reasonings, but my favorite has to be the law of attraction. Defined, the law of attraction is a philosophy suggesting that positive thoughts bring positive result into a person's life, while negative thoughts bring negative outcomes. This being said, check out the calendar below. Now, real growth is done in your own time frame. If you like the idea of tackling one of these a day, do it. If you want to tackle just a few of these items on the list and focus on those, go for it. If you want to screenshot this and use it every month this year until you create new habits, more power to you. There is no right or wrong way to grow, and your growth is in your hands. And it's basically a list of all different things that you can do every day of the month has a different thing that you can do to create a new, better habit in your life. Drink plenty of water, move your body every day, take your vitamins, clean your dishwasher once a month, learn a new skill.
Yeah, ask for help when you need it. Swap your dish sponge once a month. There's something you add on every single day of the month. And so then it's you're kind of in this rotation and betterment.
And I mean, some of these are not very comfortable reaching out to friends. A lot of us are especially now with COVID, we've become so isolated.
Yeah, antisocial and stuff.
So, I mean, some of these are very uncomfortable things. Go out in nature. I try every Tuesday to kind of get them to do something active. Go out and be physical, move your body, dance, do yoga, just go for a walk, pick up a piece of trash, whatever it be. So some of these things are challenging where, I'm not going to want to get up and go out and pick up a piece of trash. Even me, I do these 5-minute cleanups and I'm like, oh, I have to go on this 5-minute cleanup. And then when I'm done, my heart is so fulfilled and I'm so just energized and full of life. And I feel like I have not only been able to give back to Mother Nature and spend some moments with her, but actually truly honor, our presence on this world and what we are here to do. We
take responsibility for our time on this world.
We initially were here to be stewards of this land and to grow trees and to help the animals and aid things. And when you look back into Native American culture, a lot of what they teach is just so beautiful and brilliant. And, we kind of really hope to restore a lot of that ancient culture and
that belief process of
self-sustainability,
take care of everything,
permaculture,
cohabitate with nature. It shouldn't be the city and then nature. We should share everything.
Our house is filled with plants. We try to bring, we're one with everything, and we hope that we can kind of spread that light to others.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that whenever we talk about nature and these types of things, it's great to reference Native American culture because all the things that they've done, whether it's Native American culture in North America, in Central America with the Mayans, the Incans in Peru, all the way down in the southern cone of Chile and Argentina, where we're thinking about the Americas and the indigenous cultures, all of them saw Mother Nature as a neighbor and one that you would treat exceedingly well. And I remember this past year for Christmas seeing a meme, and it was like, for Native American cultures, it wasn't how much you were able to, at a time of gifting and loving, it was more about how much you could give and never about how much you could take.
Right.
So the richest people in the village were those that could always give and those that always did give, not those that took anything. And that is something that I think gets lost, especially in our Christmas period where it's just materialism and capitalism and Amazon this and this, that, and the other. And there's something that's really lost about giving, and also giving things that maybe aren't material. Giving my time to go pick up some trash, giving my time to go serve food to someone who maybe needs it, who doesn't have food and I have food, giving by planting a tree. And how have you guys seen Be the Change community evolve during COVID? Because some of the things you're talking about are so great to do during COVID that maybe, going outside, making that a priority. Maybe before COVID, it was like, yeah, I'm going to go outside. Like, I'm going to live life. But now with COVID, like you've been saying, we've become a lot more reclusive. I notice myself, I'll go to a pharmacy to pick up something and I'm in the aisle by myself and I have my mask on. I'm looking at something and then somebody else walks by and I'm like, whoa, that's another human that's really close to me. Because normally the people in my bubble, I choose, I see my parents and I see my friend and his family, and that's almost it. Like my bubble is very, very small. And so how have you seen the Be the Change community kind of evolve during COVID? And in some sense, I think it's a perfect thing that you had it before, because I'm sure whether it's helping the women that are all around the world or the community to, help people volunteer, how has it evolved?
So I think our biggest evolution through pandemic has been our expansion and relationships around the world. We are now, working with some really incredible people all over the planet. And I just feel so blessed every time that I get onto our chat. We have a group called One Piece Army. I think Just One Bag had talked about them as well. That's actually where we met, Just One Bag 2020.
Okay, that makes sense. That's all tying in.
And he started that beginning of pandemic. And I think we joined in about April. And shortly thereafter met Just One Bag 2020. And we've just created these friendships, like going back to friends.
We've kind of embraced like the Just One Bag, like kind of mentality of just taking that as something you can do during COVID, because a lot of the things that we started on was meal drives. We'd go and we'd try and feed the homeless at the shelter. And now, we're not able to do that anymore. A lot of donation drives that we've tried, a lot of places don't want to accept anything just because of, what's going on. So it's kind of turned into like, what can we do just by ourselves? And it's like, we could go down this street right behind our house that teenagers will just throw their trash out like every day almost. Like it's incredible, like how much stuff we find. And so it's like, okay, we can go do that. Like, let's go do that. We have gone around and find little baby tree starters that we're starting to grow. And then we're going to want to go around and plant those and stuff. Like it's things you could just do on nature walks or just going around away from the public.
Yeah, we just happened to be in the right place at the right time when we were offered those little tree starters. I grew up in Arizona where nothing grows ever. And growing up there and then coming here, I thought that I didn't have that skill. That was something that I was never going to be good at. And I grow more plants than any of my friends now. I'm the person that people come to and ask questions about for plants, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So
yeah, we're still learning everything, and like we're getting into building things out of stuff that we've once had and recycling. Man, even our toilet paper rolls. And
yeah, we do.
She's doing this DIY decorating virtual DIY that anybody can come to.
Oh, we did like cute little snowman bottle cap. Just glued them together, 3 little bottle caps, and painted it white and put a little snowman face on it and wrapped a little string around the neck for a scarf. And they're just cute little things that you can do like with the kids and deter those bottle caps from going into the landfill or deter it from going into the recycling waste management system that isn't even a perfect system yet. We don't know what we're doing or how to get rid of it fully. Trash doesn't go away, you know?
There's so many different numbers on plastic, and it's like they only want to take 1, 2, 4, and 6, but they don't want these. And only if it, what do we do? You know,
let's use it for
no
crafts or things that we can do at home with the kids, like keep the kids satisfied instead of going out and buying all these toys and things. Like keep them educated, keep them involved, be one-on-one with them, do these things that are going to expand their minds and help them learn skills that they can take into their life. I was very fortunate to have been raised with parents who were very involved in my life, and my mom homeschooled me kindergarten through 2nd grade, and I was able to, you know, learn sewing and cooking and baking and, you know, all of these like home skills that kids aren't taught anymore, and these things that just go unnoticed and untrained. And we reach our 30s and we're like, how do we do that? How do you sew something? How do you stitch a button onto your coat when it falls off?
Yeah, because we've grown into the mentality of it's broken, we should throw it away and go buy a new one. Like all of America, like most of the world too. And it needs to change to where something breaks, you know, fix it. Like there's patches for your jeans, like there's buttons you could sew on, like learn how to sew. YouTube is a beautiful thing in that aspect, man. You can learn how to play Mozart on a piano, you know, like after enough time, like you can do
Google.
anything. Like, it's
GTS.
crazy.
I couldn't agree more. When people come to me and they ask me, oh, how'd you learn to do that? Like, for example, podcasting. I'm just like, well, actually, I want to go back to something you said, because you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. That to me is so important, because in order to be a master at something, I think you have to constantly be a student. And if we look at the late Kobe Bryant, he was always like, I'm not the best at this. I'm just trying to be the best student, essentially. I'm down to learn every day. I'll never think I know it all. And if you look at any professional in like the top of their game, whether it's athletics or something else, they're just the best people are the best students, because they're humble enough to learn. And they're dedicated and disciplined enough to put in the work every day and be consistent. I completely think that that's a beautiful philosophy that you have, and just taking it one day at a time. And that whole, you know, learning to sew, I learned to sew too. My mother taught me how to sew as a kid. Even it was literally just a button. One day she was like, oh, you can put that button back on. And she kind of showed me how, but then it was always also just like, yeah, you just keep putting it through the holes and putting it back through. And buttons are really easy because there's a guide of the hole.
Right. Yeah.
And even if you mess it up, as long as you start from the inside, you can tie it off and no one will know.
Right.
But we've totally lost that idea. And as I sit in my DIY studio,
Yeah.
this is the deadening, and you can't see this if you're listening to this podcast, but this is cardboard essentially that I use to deaden the studio. And they're all around, and everything in here is secondhand. Literally everything in here, including the microphone that I got secondhand. Yeah. Because and it's not from a place of, I buy it for a couple of reasons. One, I would rather invest that money in something else. And two, there's so much crap out there that you don't need to buy anything new. I was actually, just before we started recording, and this is why I was a little late tonight, so thank you guys for being flexible. I was at my local thrift shop because I wanted to get a new pan for my kitchen, because I have this huge saucepan, but I needed a smaller one. And it is just amazing, the gems. And if you're listening to this podcast, and maybe you guys do too, that is where I feel I'm on top of the world when I'm thrifting, because all the possibilities are endless. And you know, when you buy it at secondhand and you're just giving it a little bit more life. So whether you're making that snowman and you're taking the caps and you're putting it on the toilet paper roll. And you guys also talked about the plastic problem in a really great way. I get frustrated by people that are just like, oh, just recycle it. I'm like, that is never the solution, because the way we recycle things is not done well. And China stopped buying stuff about less than a year ago. And so we're essentially just taking most of our recycling, and a lot of it gets put into the earth. We're landfilling or we're burning it, and we're getting, you know, gases out that we can use for energy. Either way, though, neither is a good long-term solution. And so how does Be the Change community kind of attack that?
2 weeks ago, actually, I woke up on a Tuesday to my garbage trucks pulling through our neighborhood. And it was just one of those like alerts, like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it. And so I'm like out in my robe, and I go running out, and I have nothing in the trash can. And I go over to the recycle, and I have nothing in the recycle. Or if I do, it's like this much. It's just barely anything. And so then I look at the dumpster dude who's like waiting for me, and I'm just like, oh, I'm okay. Thanks. I don't need to use it. And I came in, I was like, man, we did a really good job at reducing our waste.
So I've been taking our cardboard and our paper and anything paper or compostable that way, and I've been separating it into bins. And we just did our virtual DIY night, for January. That was journals for January. We made our own paper out of paper.
You made your own paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're taking all the paper from like
cereal boxes and
everything
butter and everything.
Just tabloids or
I made 4 separate pulps. So I did a cardboard.
Yep.
I did a like the newspapers or the ads that you get from like your grocery stores.
Sure.
I did that all separate.
Endless.
Yeah, endless. You get those every week. And there's coupons in there and stuff that go to complete waste, which is another thing that we do. I clip out the coupons and I will go around the grocery stores and just put them for people to find as a random act of kindness. We call them acts of change that anybody can do anywhere.
If we don't use it, it's like we don't use this deodorant, but someone might, and we'll put it right on the front. So whoever
they get $2 off your deodorant.
A lot of people do they pay for something in the drive-through, or back in the day when we didn't have the tolls where you just drive under and everyone has a card or they take your license plate. I remember my father growing up, he would pay for the toll going over the Tobin Bridge in Boston, which is like a huge bridge. But that is brilliant.
I have to give that one to
Random X.
Rack Ninja, he's called. He's AOK together, AOK_ together on Instagram. And he's created an acts of kindness game, basically. And it's random things that you can do every day. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think it's in Kickstarter right now, starting stages. And just we're so excited to get this game from him and have kind of been in contact with him. And he gives us little challenges every now and then, and we kind of create our own acts of change in the meantime. And so that's not me, that's him.
I will look him up and I'll tag him also when we put the episode up. But let's go back. Tell me about the paper. What's the end product of the paper and why the paper?
I wanted to do something for January that could kind of be, again, going back to the girls group, something we could utilize that would be efficient in healing our mind and body and soul. And journaling is a huge way to outlet, release and vent and get things out. And what better way to do it than on something that you made and put your own love and hard work into? So that's why we chose paper for January. And I just had an abundance of paper stacking up. So I was like, what do I do?
Besides cutting it up, it is very easy.
I co-host the virtual DIY nights with Mariel McIntosh of Blooming Arts and Solutions for a Better World. And she was just blown away. She's like, this is your first time doing this? And you're just going to do it on camera? I was like, girl, like I always say, like every single one of our Be the Change posts pretty much says, don't follow me, walk beside me. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, let's create a new path together, figure this out together. So trial and error. And that's the only way that you're going to get good at anything is by trying it and failing and then succeeding.
We're here talking about paper, but let's go super macro. What's something that you guys have discussed and maybe you've never said out loud or share with other people that you want to do in the next 5 years to leave for 100 years? Something like, obviously the trees would be a good example, but is there something that you've thought about that, hey, is that even possible for us to do? Because I think we've all asked those questions in whatever project or even in our life, like that's something I want to do, but is that even possible? I mean, like you're really on the frontier of like dreaming. Elon Musk, I'm going to bring him up and he's controversial for many people, but there was a point where he was like, can I take people to the moon? Can I basically create buses to the moon? And I'm sure even when he said that out loud, people were like, even he was like, that sounds really crazy. But now we see he's getting, substantially closer because as you guys said, it's just like, if you do something every day, you'll get closer to your end goal. So is there something that Be the Change community has thought about that would be like
I'm a dreamer. I'm a Pisces. I'm a water sign. I live in my dreams.
I'm also a Pisces.
Yes.
I don't know if you listened to the end of episode 32 where I talked about the Capitol riot, but I end it with John Lennon's Imagine.
Yes.
I said I'm a dreamer and I'm not the only one. So you're...
Yeah. I live in my dreams and I feel like that is where I thrive. And all of what this has been is a dream. It's a dream come true. It's like everything that have tried to accomplish, everything that I've sat back and said like, okay, what's the next step for us? I need X, Y, and Z, and put it down on paper for myself. And then literally put it out into the universe asking for those things, and those things just magically fall in my lap. I feel like with great intent and purpose, you are bound to be successful in whatever your goal and dream is. And we have a lot of dreams for Be the Change.
We do. One of mine is to actually educate youth. I'd really love to be able to go around. The question is, what are we going to leave for the next 100 years? Mm-hmm. And it's so daunting when you really look at everything that needs to change in the world. Pollution and the ocean and forestation and all these things. It's crazy. And so, you sit there and you're like, what can we do? And we've been feeling that education, that knowledge of not only where this should go, but where it goes. You know what I'm saying? What happens when you just drop your candy wrapper when you're on the soccer field? What happens to that piece? Where does it go? And it's just one of those things that I feel I wasn't really raised in that information kind of aspect. Littering was bad and all that, but there was no people coming over and look, let's do this. Who likes to live in a dirty area? Do you like to live in a dirty house? It's why are you treating your bigger house, the planet, just like that? And so I would really like to get more into the youth and educate them, because they're our next step.
And I'm fully on board with that. I feel like awareness is one of the biggest keys to change. Mm-hmm. If you're unaware of something, you can't change it. If you are aware of it and it's presented in front of you with fact and evidence, then it's kind of hard to turn a blind eye to that. And then there defines you as a person. What kind of person are you going to be? Are you going to turn a blind eye to that, or are you going to take action?
Whether you voted for the Biden-Harris ticket or not, we have a change now in the country. And for some of the country, there's some real optimism. For some of the country, maybe there's not some optimism. What would you two say if you could sit down with Biden and Harris? What would be the thing that you would go to them and say, this is the thing we really want to invest in? And this is not an easy question, because there are 1,000 things that are moving targets, right? But if you had to go in and have a 5-minute presentation with the new VP and POTUS, what would be the thing that you would hopefully try to put in front of them, especially as Pacific Northwesterners? Because for people on this side of the coast, when I look at the Pacific Northwest, I'm just I'm so worried about your trees, because every year we look over and it's hard for us on this side of the world where Massachusetts is really tiny, for us to maybe understand the magnitude of how much is being burned year on year. So would it be something like that, or is there something else that you think is really pressing?
For me, going to be changing the way that we look at our resources and what resources we are using. There has been proven that if you grow hemp, you can make insulation, you can make bricks to build these homes for the homeless. They're already doing this. This is stuff that's already being done. And they're building these almost indestructible homes for the homeless at very, very low cost by building it with these hemp materials. Changing our plastics to more eco-friendly plastics. We have all the sources to move away from plastic and to move away from these things that are so toxic for our environment, for our health, for the ground that we're putting it into, all these beams and posts and asphalt, and just a lot of this is not good for our earth. So the resources, I think, would be my biggest takeaway, and what I would want them to focus on. Hey, we can use eco-friendly plastics, we can use hemp plastics, we can use hemp bricks, we can, and we can grow. These are things that we can grow ourselves that grow as weeds, especially in the Pacific Northwest. It's like a wildfire out here, like a bamboo, use bamboo. Bamboo is a huge one. We follow and work closely with Bamboo Brush. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yep.
Yeah, they're amazing people. They're doing wonderful things for the world and creating waste management systems in places that don't have them yet. And we personally have a branch in Nigeria, Africa, that they don't have waste management there outside of Abuja. And so we're trying to find a way to work with Bamboo Brush and create some sort of waste management system outside of that major city for Paul's sake, because Paul is our leader out there and he is just drowning in plastic and drowning in trash. And
yeah, so much.
They dispose of it by lighting it on fire because they don't have another choice, and he spent 7 hours in the African sun digging a 7-foot hole for a neighboring town so that they could have somewhere to store their dump basically and put their trash. And the things that he's doing out there is so amazing. And I know that there's so many undeveloped countries that need that. And, being able to collaborate with these companies who are already working with these resources and finding solutions to the problem. Like, let's stop investing it into plastic and let's start investing it into bamboo. Let's start investing it into hemp. Let's start investing it into these things that are going to sustain our world, give us oxygen. In the meantime, it grows back fast. You can harvest it and it pops right back up. Like, let's start using resources that are sustainable and being sustainable.
I would say that we should focus probably more on the agricultural side of America. Farming outdoors, I mean, it's great, but we're destroying the soil. It takes a long time. There's so many companies now that are working with indoor food production where they do vertical integration and everything's under like super LED lights that are so close to the sun. And it takes up old warehouses that are in a city. And that would then provide space for us to give back to the earth, because we've taken up way more than what we should have of all of our forests, of all of our natural wildland and our habitats.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but like our city, even outside of the city, there is hundreds of empty buildings, massive empty buildings just sitting there. It's like, why can't we repurpose these buildings and grow food?
Grow food for the city. Each city could have 5 buildings growing for that city.
I was speaking with my buddy. We actually run a soccer podcast. Shout out, Jeff.
How many podcasts do you have, man?
Just two. But I was talking with Jeff, and we've been friends since high school, and he works for a town up here, and he's I call him the energy czar, but he works with the town and he gets people to, invest in solar, to change their light bulbs, to get better insulation, do all these types of things. He was one of the first people I know to drive an electric car. We're very aligned on that level, aside from just also being fans of soccer and friends since high school. And he and I were brainstorming the other night because every single area in the United States, maybe not every single area, but many areas in the United States already have these buildings set up, even if they're not just abandoned buildings. Mm-hmm. And what we call them now is we call them malls. Yeah. Malls are going to be gone in the next 10 years. And it would be great if we use malls for a bunch of different things. And he and I are literally making a list because we're kind of fascinated by it. But one of the cool things would be making, like you're saying, the vertical integration of indoor agriculture and essentially making food banks. Because I'm sure you guys have seen Kiss the Ground. Kiss the Ground, the stat, when it said we have 60 harvests left, you're kind of like, well, I'll be alive, hopefully, when that happens.
Yeah.
And it just all of a sudden made me think, like, are we living interstellar? The line where Michael Caine's like, the last to die from starvation will be the first to suffocate. And I'm just kind of like, oh, wow, we really need to do something. So whether it's focusing on the soil, focusing on agriculture or plastics, they're both obviously intersectionally related in the way that they have to do with the world that we live in. Where can people, if they want to be a part, if they want to volunteer, if there's a woman listening who wants to join your group, how can they be a part of that? Should they follow you on Instagram, follow you on Facebook? You probably have a bunch of different pages. Do you want to take the time and do some shout outs?
Yeah, I can give you the Linktree link. So our Linktree has all of our branches are in there that we have so far. That's Calgary, Canada, Nigeria, Africa, and our Portland and surrounding hubs. We have Eugene and Bend as well, in on the Oregon side. And then we're working on Phoenix, Arizona right now, northern New Jersey, California. And we're hoping to just expand to, as many states and countries and nations as we possibly can, and just bring this opportunity to as many people as we possibly can. We're open to, all it takes is a leader. And if you email me and you tell me you want to do it, I'm going to find a way.
Right. We're Be the Change community. It's not just go pick up this trash or go plant this tree. Like, we want to be the change that we wish to see. And that literally starts with us.
I'm sincerely here, like 24 hours a day. I answer my phone. So branches are on there. Our events are on there. Our Facebook is on there. Our Instagram is on there. We've got our women's group link is on there. Our website is there for people who don't have the social medias. We have a wish list on our Linktree where people can go and purchase things and send those to us. We accept those kind of donations, but we just can't accept anything financially. Our partners and affiliates are on there. All of our like media publications and podcasts and like all of that stuff. So we'll definitely put you in there under that. Yeah, they can find anything and everything they need from that one link. Make it easy for them.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, JD, Rose, thank you for joining me all the way from outside of Portland, Oregon. And I hope you guys have a good night.
You as well. Thank you so
very
much.
man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Wifi Water. And be sure to check out our Instagram and Facebook pages at Wifi Water Podcast to see a video of Rose making paper from scraps. And be sure to click the link in our bio to learn more about the Be The Change community. Finally, please know that Rose and I connected after recording, and she shared with me that her dream for the Be The Change community is to create a real community where people can grow their own food, create stuff, and live consciously and connected with nature. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.